Good evening. I am Shannon Sproul, your host of Visionaries Talk Back. I am an author and CEO of SMS Right On Publishing. I am really excited tonight because I have a special young lady joining me tonight. Her name is Mercedes Wilson. Mercedes is a passionate servant leader tasked with delivering a message of hope to everyone needing encouragement through their circumstances, big or small. As an author, speaker, television personality, radio and podcast host, event MC, and founder of the nonprofit For Our Daughters, she takes her supporters through paradigm shifts from where they are to a deeper understanding of themselves. God has given Mercedes many gifts, and she intends to use every one of them to empower others through their darkest hour and to glorify Him. Please welcome Mercedes E. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
Yes, and thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to have a conversation with you today. Before we get started, I just want everyone to know, if you have questions for Mercedes, post them in the comments section and we'll address them. Also, Mercedes is going to share some phenomenal information with us today. So please like and share this video to your family and friends.
And Shannon, this will be available on your Facebook page, right?
It will be available in the Visionaries Talkback Facebook page.
Okay.
Also, it will go up on YouTube. When I get it on YouTube, I'll send you the YouTube link.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, great. So let's get started. The focus of my conversation with you, I'm starting a series on survivorship, and I want to talk about your journey. Audience, for those that don't know, Mercedes is a cancer survivor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just start out with, when were you diagnosed and exactly how old were you when you were diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah, well, I was diagnosed in 2011 when I was 28 years old.
Okay.
And I was diagnosed with stage 2 estrogen receptor positive breast cancer.
Okay. All right. So you just gave us a mouthful there.
Right.
So explain for the layman exactly, what did you call it? Estrogen?
Estrogen receptor positive, meaning my cancer fed off of estrogen.
Oh.
Yeah. It was rare because normally African-American women have triple negative, which is way more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Mine was not that one, but it was also stage 2. So they treated it kind of aggressively because they wanted to get rid of it. So they treated it kind of aggressive.
So how was it initially detected? Did you have breast exam, clinical breast exam, or was it through your mammogram? How did you find out?
There was a lump in my breast when I was moving right around the age of 26. I used to kind of move a little bit because my ex-husband was a college basketball coach. So we were moving and I thought I pulled a muscle on my left side. So I thought it was a pulled muscle and it formed a dimple in my breast. So each year when I went to my yearly appointments to get my birth control, because we said no more kids.
Okay.
No more kids. They would feel the lump. The doctors would feel the lump and say, "Oh, how old are you? 26? Oh, no, you're good. Give me my birth control. Send me on my way." 27, same thing. When I relocated here to this area, I found a new doctor. Mm-hmm. And when she felt it, she stopped and she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's not a big deal. A couple doctors said it wasn't a big deal. I'm too young." And she flat out told me, "I will not be your doctor until you get this checked. You get this checked, and then I will take you on." So she sent me to Roswell, and that's what changed my life. There was a doctor that saved my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. In this day and age that you, 26, 27, you've multiple times going to the doctor.
Yep.
They tell you if you feel a lump, you should get it checked.
Yep.
And it just brushed it off. That's just amazing that would happen at this. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the first time that you were actually told that you have cancer. Take us through your emotion and what you were feeling.
I remember sitting in the room with the doctors because they did the biopsy, and it was only a couple of days before they called me and said, "Get back in here." So when I remember sitting in the room and the doctor saying that I had breast cancer, and I don't remember much more of that conversation. I took a girlfriend with me because somebody suggested take somebody with you because the room is spinning when you hear the news, and take a notepad and have questions. But when you hear that news, it doesn't matter what you have written down. The whole room was spinning. So I remember the doctor saying it and kind of being in denial, like, no, like you got the wrong person. And when he said stage 2, I'm like, so what does that mean? Immediately I got terrified because you hear stage 4. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what does this mean as far as my life? What about my children? What about, everything that they have going on? Their life is going to be messed up because mom isn't going to be around. So immediately you think cancer is a death sentence. There were so many different thoughts and so many different emotions going through my mind. And I was glad that I had a girlfriend there with me because she helped me go through some questions with them. And they took their time with me too. We had a couple of different meetings to talk about what they wanted to do and how they wanted to attack it. But that initial meeting, it was like the room was spinning. The room was spinning for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you find out you have cancer. You get through all of the meetings. Walk us through what your treatment process was like.
Yeah, so I had 8 rounds of chemotherapy. They didn't want to do a mastectomy because they're like, you're so young, we don't want to take off your whole breast. So they kind of reversed it and did the chemotherapy first to shrink the lump.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 8 rounds of chemotherapy, and then I had the lumpectomy on my left breast, and then I had 45 days of radiation.
Okay, so when you say 8 rounds of chemo, is that 8 weeks of chemo weekly, or how to
8 sessions. Each session is a round. So I had it every other week. So I went through it for 4 months.
Okay.
Every other Monday I went in. And I tell you what, the first one, I remember my sister took me to my first one, and I remember her getting me home, and I remember throwing up, and then I remember waking up, and it was a Monday, and I woke up on a Thursday.
What?
But my family and my friends were like, no, you were fully functioning. You were acting like normal. You were sick, but you were acting normal. But that first session knocked me on my butt. Not saying the other ones were any easier, but my doctor described it as every 2 weeks is going to feel like you got the flu.
Wow.
And the first time you get it, second time you get it, you'll bounce back. But the third on, it'll be harder for you to bounce back. So every 2 weeks, it was like I got knocked down with the flu.
So was it, after you had your treatment, was it just a day or two of you being sick and then you bounced back to yourself? Or did you ever fully bounce back to yourself during the treatment?
I would say after the first 2 treatments, after about a week.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, and I don't know if some of it was a little mental because I dreaded going.
Okay.
But after that, it was exactly how he described it. I got knocked down, and it was hard for me to recover because it was like I got sick every 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. That was really, really, really tough. Really tough. I had a lot of friends and family that surrounded me. I was really blessed. And they looked up stuff. They looked up recipes. They looked up different ways to help calm my stomach. I had a girlfriend that kind of just moved in with me.
Wow.
And helped me out with the kids. So I had friends and family that were there for me. But I know it hurt them to see me going through it as well. Because when I was down, I was down.
And you're blessed because there's so many people that don't have that support system, and that support system is extremely important for you to get through the process.
Yep.
So they didn't remove your breast; they did a lumpectomy. So that's where they just removed the lump in the breast,
right?
And then talk to me about radiation. How I've heard so many different stories about radiation. How was that process?
You know what? I think it was because I was so happy I was done with chemo that radiation did nothing but just made me a little tired.
Oh, okay.
I was just drowsy after radiation. Now, by that point, I was just tired of going to the hospital. I
Right.
was tired.
Right.
Um, so besides like just feeling like I needed rest, the radiation part was the easiest part for me. Now,
Mm.
none of it was easy. I'm saying that was out of all of it, the
Yeah,
easiest.
I get
Right.
what you're
Yeah.
saying. So, before I move on to the next question, support. You had your family and your friends. What about community support? Were there programs available to you? I mean, I know there had to be some financial impact. What was available to you to help you during your process?
Fortunately, right when I was diagnosed, I was working for a major corporation, and so that covered it covered my insurance. Now the co-payments were bears, but my the main bulk of it was covered.
Okay.
Um, as far as community support, there were organizations that I linked up with, but I'll be honest with you, I wasn't interested.
Okay.
I wanted to get through this. I wanted to not be sick. I wanted my taste buds back. I wanted my mind back. I wanted my life back. So for me, I tried to go out a couple of times, but I was so, I want to say out of it that I
Okay.
really didn't look for it until after.
Okay. And that's definitely understandable. Talk about the impact, both emotional and financial, on you and your family.
Yes. I can tell you, I didn't tell my kids until after I was through cancer and was planning our first gala for our daughters. I didn't tell my children because they had recently gone through a divorce with their father and I. I didn't want to throw cancer on them as well.
Okay.
As far as my family, I could see the hurt in their eyes. I could tell it really impacted them, but they were trying to stay strong. And how can we help you? What do you need? Um, but afterwards, when we had the conversations, they talked about how tough it was for them to see me going through it.
Okay.
But you know what? It brought me closer to a lot of people, but it also shows you, it can also distance you from some people too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you go through things, it can distance you from the folks that you thought would be there and they weren't. Yeah. But that's okay too. That's okay too. But I really, really learned who was there. And their love is what got me through a lot of times.
Wow. Wow. Tell us about the new Mercedes. What I mean by that is that journey through your treatment, getting better, you had to change. Some things had to change about you. Some outlooks on life had to change. Share with us who you are today in comparison to who you were before you got that cancer diagnosis.
I would say today, I'm a lot more aggravating.
Aggravating or aggravated?
Aggravating to people.
Okay.
I go after what it is that God has for me. And I do it most times. I still have, all of us have our moments of insecurities, but most times I go after it aggressively. Okay. Because when I went through cancer, I was stripped of everything.
Yeah.
And that was a time where I was really humbled. My life stopped. So I had nothing but time. So I would say when I came out, my zeal for life, even though I'm still young, my views changed because I'm happy. My children are going to have their mother. I'm still going to be around. Absolutely. Guess what? I value the fact that my hair grew back. I value the fact that my taste buds are back. I value the fact that I'm not feeling sick like I was before. So when I got through breast cancer, it gave me a whole new perspective of life and going after what you were put here to do. Okay. So that's why I say I'm aggravating to people.
Okay. But it's a good aggravation.
Well, you got to ask them about that.
So for our daughters.
Yes.
Talk to us about this organization, where it was birthed from, and give us some insight.
Yeah, well, it was birthed from my battle with breast cancer.
Okay.
And when I was sitting with the doctor and they were asking me my family history, I didn't know any of it. We didn't talk about it. I mean, we just didn't growing up. So I didn't know. So I had to go digging, calling my aunties, calling my mom, saying, "Hey, help me out here." And I thought, how many other young women will have to go through what I went through because they don't know their family history? So For Our Daughters literally came from that. And the mission is educating young women on how to advocate for their own health. So we go into high schools across Western New York, and we've reached over 2,000 young women in 2018, by the way.
Wow.
But we go into high school and do workshops, real-time, real-life workshops with these young women, and go through things that they're experiencing and show them how to communicate and how to advocate for their own health.
Wow.
I love it. We take Zumba in. There's a young lady that goes with me everywhere. And we do Zumba to show them that living healthy can be fun as well. The amazing board of directors. I'm telling you, when we all come together and put this curriculum together and spend time doing this, the organization is amazing because of all of the hands that are in it.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. It's not, when you're in front of these young women, it's not a focus on cancer. It's a focus on how to stay healthy, how to make sure you're doing your annual exams and knowing your family. So it's more educational and more preventive. Am I correct?
Right. Know your family history, whether it's diabetes, whether it's high blood pressure, whether it's strokes, no matter what it is. But breast cancer was its start because that's, it came from my experience with breast cancer. But we talk about it all. Right.
And that's a wonderful organization. And it's just wonderful how you took a very difficult situation. You have some people that go through situations like this, they ball up and they give up.
Yep.
Instead, you dealt with it, you fought through it, and look at what you're doing for the community. You should be very, very proud of yourself.
Oh, it's not just me. It's the board, it's the community.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. When I say you, because it was your original vision.
Right.
That's what I mean. Talk to us about the big event that's coming up next month.
Yes, October 27th. It's our 7th annual gala. This is number 7 at the Adams Mark Hotel from 6 to 10 p.m. Tickets are $75. I mean, it is so fun. We have a live band. We have raffles, silent auctions, live cake auctions, breast cancer survivor tributes, and you get to learn about what we do in the community with For Our Daughters. It is a night where there's laughing, there's crying, there's dancing, there's sweating because we dancing. But it's such a good time. It is such a good time.
Wow. Okay. How can people, do you have a link that you want to share if someone wants to come to the event?
Yep. I'll put the link under this video as well, but it's forourdaughtersinc.org.
Okay.
And go right, there's a link for it and get your tickets right online.
So it's for.
Yep, FOROUR, forourdaughtersinc.org.
Okay, I just put it up for everyone.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. Now, amongst your many hats that you wear, you just recently put on a new hat as an author. And you have a book out called Hope. There it is. Tell us about this book and what did you want to accomplish by writing this book?
I never planned on being an author. Okay. So it was a God thing. It was a God thing, point blank, period. God woke me up and said, write this book. And this book is a memoir. It goes through different parts of my life, some of the hardest points of my life, including breast cancer, from my childhood on up. And then we get to, or you get to go through a journey of my life and see how God brought me out of all of them. Okay. So in my darkest hours, how I made it out. This book is for anyone that's ever gone through anything, which is all of us, right?
Absolutely. 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 And I can relate to the title, Hope.
Yeah.
And it gives the reader a glimpse into your life, but it also gives the reader the ability to realize that there's hope.
Yeah.
I believe, honestly, when people share their stories, their adversities, things that they go through in life, that it's important to share it because there's so many people that go through the same situations that you and I and others go through, and
Yep.
they commit suicide.
Yep.
They turn to drugs. They turn to alcohol. And I think by us sharing our stories, we let them know that there's hope. They
Yeah.
can look at us and say, wait a minute, look at what she's doing.
Right.
She's had a battle with cancer and she's running an organization. She's doing this. She's writing books. If she can do it, then I can get
I can do it.
also.
Yep. Yep.
So, kudos to you for that. Wonderful. And I have to get your book. Didn't
Yes,
get
you
there.
do.
Yes, I plan on getting your book. I definitely am going to support you on that.
And check it out on my website, mercedesewilson.com.
Okay. All right. Definitely. Tell me, if you had an opportunity to provide one piece of advice to anyone that is being diagnosed with cancer, what would that be?
Don't give up.
Okay.
Don't give up. At the roughest point, I wanted to give up. I wanted to give up. I had friends and family that were there and said, "You're not going to," but I can tell you on the other side of that is a different life. When you're a survivor, your mindset is so different. And all of us have our own journeys. All of us have our own journey.
Absolutely.
But don't give up. Please don't give up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any upcoming events or projects that you'd like to share with the audience?
Of course, of course. I came out with the help of another survivor sister with my own necklace, the Hope necklace. It's emerald. My pre-orders start October 1st.
Okay.
I'll post a picture under this link, but you'll also be able to see it on my website after October 1st. And then I'll be traveling to Pittsburgh in November for an interview on Cornerstone TV, the show called Real Life.
Okay.
So excited about that. And I also posted my interview. I just traveled to South Carolina, Deborah Ross Ministries, and that's airing all down south, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina.
I watched that today.
Yep. So it's those and the gala. Get your gala tickets, folks. Get your gala tickets.
You heard her right here. Get those tickets.
Yep.
So tell me what's next for Mercedes. You're doing wonderful work in the community. You're an author now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about events. What's next for you? What are some things that you're looking to do? I mean, I know you got your hands full and you're doing a lot, but tell me what keeps you up at night.
Great question. I have a radio show called The Mercedes Wilson Show on Power 96.5. Okay. I really want to grow in that and do interviews. I love talking about the things of today's church. I love talking about God. I love doing interviews with leaders. So I'm really looking to expand that brand. And then, of course, growing for our daughters. I want to reach more young women with the mission of educating them on how to advocate for their own health and wellness. I want to be a great mom. I want to be a great wife. I want to be a great servant leader. I want to serve the community and the world the best that I possibly can, but making sure my house is in order as well. I have a 15-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, and 4-year-old twins. So I have a lot going on. And I'm a wife.
With those twins.
I know, and those twins run me ragged. You hear me?
Wow.
They run me ragged. But I want to be the best mom, the best wife, the best servant that I can be. So pray for me as I do that. But that is what I want to grow. I want to work on this radio show, and I want to expand for our daughters.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. I've enjoyed talking to you. We went through a lot of stuff and it went quick, but it was just a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, yeah. And you had an event last weekend, a very successful event last weekend. And I'm gonna
steal a line from you. I heard you say recently, this is about you tonight.
I'm just saying congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. But it's been a pleasure. I hope that we connect again. I love what you're doing in the community. If there's any way that I could help, Feel free to ask.
Okay, give me a copy of your book, and I'll get you a copy of mine. That'll help.
Oh, we sure can. That's a deal.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, and you have a blessed evening.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Mercedes E. Wilson. I just tell you, this woman is an amazing woman. She's doing some wonderful things in the community. Guys, support her. Her book, once again, is Hope. It's available on Amazon. Get her book, support her, support our daughters. And thank you so much for joining me this evening. So once again, you have a blessed evening, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Good evening. This is Shannon Sproul. I'm an author and CEO of SMS Right On Publishing, and I'm your host this evening for Visionaries Talk Back. I'm excited today. We have Corey Poirier in the house. I'm going to read a little bit about him, give you his bio, and then bring him on, and we're going to have a conversation. So Corey Poirier is a multiple-time TEDx, Mo Mondays, and PMX speaker. He is also the host of top-rated Conversations with Passion radio show, founder of the speaking program, and he has been featured in multiple television specials. A columnist with Entrepreneur and Forbes, he has featured in and on CBS, CTV, NBC, and ABC, and is one of the few leaders featured twice on the popular Entrepreneur on Fire show. He has also interviewed over 4,000 of the world's top leaders. One of his most recent talks took him to New York City, where he had the extreme pleasure of speaking to at-risk youth at the Brooklyn Navy Yard Boys and Girls Club. A father to his young son, Sebastian, boyfriend to Shelly, and a father to 3 fur babies, Corey is also practicing yoga and Rock Recording of the Year nominee. Please help me welcome Corey Poirier to Visionaries Talk Back. Hi, Corey.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm great and glad to have you. Before we get started, just some housekeeping. Corey's going to share some great information with us, so please share this video. Like and share this video with your families and friends. Also, if you have any questions that you want to ask Corey during the course of the interview, use the comments section, and then I can post them for Corey. All right, so let's get started. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's
all right.
Still summer. The weather's nice. I can't complain.
Yeah, well, I'm in Buffalo, so we try to enjoy it to the very last before that switch over.
That's the way it should.
So we're going to talk about public speaking. What are the key mistakes beginning speakers make? There are a lot of people that want to be public speakers. Talk to us about some of the mistakes that they make.
I think the biggest thing right from the beginning is people maybe set their expectations too high. And so what I mean by that is a lot of people starting out want to be, insert name here, right? Tony Robbins, Bill Clinton. They want to be this speaker that they see that commands an audience and jumps on a stage with what they see as comfort, and not realizing that you didn't see the 30 years it took Tony Robbins to get on that stage and be that comfortable. So I would say the first thing is to realize you need to start where you're at. So just setting your own internal expectations to not beat yourself up if you're not, a world-class speaker in day one. So I'd say a lot of beginning speakers jump into it thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, or I should be better, and don't try to rush yourself too quick. Another thing I would say beginning speakers, another common mistake that they'll make is they are willing to speak on any topic as long as somebody asks them to speak on a topic. And I believe that you shouldn't speak on, this is my own personal opinion, you shouldn't speak on a topic that you're not passionate about. Unless you're being forced to speak. There's your company might say you have to speak. That's a different thing. But if you're choosing to speak, make sure it's something you're passionate about. And then the last part I would say is make sure it's something that you know at least as much as your audience about. So don't make the mistake of just saying, well, I'm going to speak. So somebody says, will you come and speak on social media? And you have 3 followers on Facebook, 12 on Twitter. You've been online on social media 5 times, and now you're going to teach people about social media. Don't make that mistake.
Right,
So
absolutely.
To talk about stuff that you are not prepared or experienced enough to talk about. Those would be some early mistakes I would say people make.
Okay. What are some of the tools out there? I know, me personally, I've been working on my public speaking, and I joined Toastmasters. So is something like that, what would you recommend for someone that like wants to polish and learn the appropriate way to speak?
Join Toastmasters. Is what I recommend.
Okay.
As somebody who's been speaking for 16 years, coaching and helping other speakers for a lot of years as well, almost always one of the first recommendations I say is go to Toastmasters, because it's a very low cost but high value way to start learning how to speak comfortably and to get feedback instantly. Like, there's so many things that it would cost you thousands of dollars to do if you didn't use some sort of, let's say, formalized system like a Toastmasters. What Toastmasters does, because it's an international organization, is they have those things in place for you. So they have somebody that'll tell you how you're doing on the grammar side when you're speaking. They have you, depending on the Toastmasters, they have a way probably to tell you you're speaking too long and to stop you from speaking. And so because of that, I would say that Toastmasters is my first recommendation. It helped me get rid of a lot of my ums and ahs. Talks that I'm comfortable with, because they had somebody that said, oh, you said 13 ums and ahs. And then the person beside me at my first Toastmasters meeting said, aren't you a professional speaker? So all of a sudden, unconsciously, you want to beat those ums and ahs out of yourself right away.
Right, absolutely.
It makes you more conscious. So that's a long tangent to say Toastmasters is something I highly recommend, because it'll help a person, because it's a very formalized teaching way of teaching you, here's how long you should speak. If you have this much time, how do you prepare for that? Here's how you speak impromptu. So if you don't have any notice and somebody says, here, talk about this pen for 2 minutes, it teaches you how to do that on your feet. It teaches you how to keep track in your head, not keep track like that you're studying it, but how to be more aware of, am I saying and ah too much, and all those kind of things. So there's so much you can get from Toastmasters for such a little investment. I'd be remiss not to add or say right away, Toastmasters is at the top of my list. And then there's lots of other ways. Like, you can form your own mastermind of other people that are starting speaking and learn from each other. You can record your early talks and then study them and say, what do they do right or wrong? And maybe sit with somebody you trust and ask them what you did right and wrong. There's so many other things you can do, but Toastmasters is a very formalized way. And because it's international, you listening will probably find a local Toastmasters near you.
Yeah. And I can attest to that. I've been in Toastmasters. One group, I was in it for a couple of months because I had to switch time at work. I had to change, and my job now has a Toastmasters on site, and it has helped me a lot. It has really helped me polish my speaking, and like you said, I'm very conscious of the ums and the ahs when I'm talking now, whereas before it was just part of my speech. But yeah, thank you for that. What is the number one way to secure paid bookings? When they get into public speaking, their ultimate goal is to make money. So what are some of the ways to secure paid bookings?
So paid bookings, I'll say it this way, a game changer for me. So it was probably still today, and started this way, one of the number one ways that I started securing more bookings, paid bookings, and continue to use it. It's something what's really cool is this strategy, whether you're brand new or whether you've been speaking for years, it works. And so what it is I have this crafted evaluation form that I put together. It took me years to put together. And one of the questions on the forms is, do you know of others who could benefit from a similar presentation? And can we contact them? So it's really just it's almost like a lead magnet. It's basically, it's a way that, and so I make sure that I get these out to everybody in the audience. And so if you're sitting there in the audience and you just watch me speak and you're filling out this form and it says, do you know of others who could bring me in to talk about a similar subject, and can we contact them? It reminds you, it starts making you think, okay, well, my company can't, but I used to work at the Gap, and they need people to come in and talk with customer service. And so then it's kind of that last action item. So, and the other part about it is if you're nervous going up to talk to the speaker, because some people are, it gives you an easy out, because you can just write it on the form and say, just reach out to me later. You can send me an email. And so you don't even have to go up and talk to the speaker. You can literally just fill it out in a form and basically send it up to the front, leave it on your table. And for me, as the speaker, it's generated more leads than almost anything else other than word of mouth, of course, and referrals. But it's a really good source because it reminds people while they're there on the spot, hey, we could bring this guy in. And so I'll actually show you, just to kind of back this up. Let me just see here. Okay, let's grab one, because I happen to have some of these because we were just going through them the other day. But like, this is my evaluation form. And one of the questions is, do you know of others who could benefit from a similar presentation? And their answer was yes. A management session on personality types. And so this person now, I'll have to, this is a recent talk, I'll have to reach out to them. But the person themselves gave me their email and said, yes, we could benefit from something like that.
Okay. And once you've been, you're a pro now, and you've been doing this for a while, do you take non-paid talks?
It's a great question. So there's this great quote, and I think I'm crediting it to the right person, but maybe I'm not, but I'm going to credit it to who I know that I learned it from or heard it from. But there's a book called How to Make a Million as a Professional Speaker by a guy named Alan Weiss. And in the book, what he says is, there's never a good reason to speak for free, but there's plenty of good reasons to speak for no fee. And so what I'm suggesting there is, rather than using, like, and I'm saying in general, in my own head, because I always worry about saying I'm doing a free talk psychologically, because then it makes it lowered value to me. So what I focus on is there a reason for me to do a no fee talk? And so then to answer your question, do I do these free, AKA no fee talks? It's very, 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 very rare these days. It has to be a very, and I add a whole bunch of more berries in, very, very compelling reason. So a compelling reason example could be, they're going to put me in front. I'll give you an example, but let's say they're a meeting planner group. They never pay speakers, but the audience is made up of, let's say, 1,000 meeting planners who hire speakers 10 times a year each. So obviously there's
some benefit out of it for you.
Yeah, and I think there has to be a benefit for both parties. Like, I think sometimes when people go, well, we want to bring you in, but we don't want to pay you anything, there has to be a reason why they're saying that too. You know, in other words, we're going to bring you in, we don't want to pay you anything. And if you're new, this might be enough, but we can market you to 2,000 people through our newsletter over and over again. And if you're a brand new speaker, being able to say, oh, check out my talk at this association event, and then they're promoting you through their newsletter, and you can share that. When you're brand new, that could be enough. So if I full on answer the question, do I speak for free now? Very rarely. Did I when I started? Absolutely. But I always look at it like I'm speaking for no fee.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is really the same thing. It's just that word for free. We hear it so often these days. I worry that if you think as a speaker, well, I'm just going to speak for free again this week, then it makes you devalue yourself and place that extra value on yourself.
Gotcha. So me personally, one of my goals is to do a TEDx. They do TEDx here in Buffalo. And I want to perfect my speaking because that's one of my goals. Talk to me. Why should someone who's looking at a career in public speaking try to secure a TEDx talk?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've now, so at this point now, I was a big fan of the TED Talks, watching them, and you know, I still watch them regularly. They're among my favorite learning tools, and so I was a big fan from the jump. And then on top of that, I used, well, I'll say I used the system, but it was a happy accident that actually secured me my first TEDx talk. And then after that, I started testing the system. And so what happened was I created the system around how to secure TEDx talks, and I've done 3 now. So why I say this is just mainly to say I studied this so much because I wanted to see, was there a big value in doing TEDx talks, and what was that value? And by studying TEDx talks, I also ended up interviewing TEDx speakers. And so by doing that, I was able to see what was the value for each of these people. And so why should you bother, which is your question, why you should bother is because what I've seen is that they'll open doors doing a TEDx talk. It'll open doors that you'll find hard to get open almost any other way. And
Okay.
secondly, and this is really big as well, it'll build credibility for you like few other things will. And then I guess if I add a third in, it'll allow you to impact people in a way that few other, let's say, branded talks or events will let you impact people. So people watching a TEDx event come to learn in a specific way. So it'll allow you to reach people and maybe get them to spread your idea. And then if I'm going backwards now, so that's, the third one. The credibility side is that, whenever I have people that are doing my bio, they'll say, okay, well, I got your bio here. So is there parts I should leave out or add in? But they always say, okay, so I'll say the TEDx part, and then what else should I add in? So in their mind, the TEDx part's a mandatory because it's a credibility instantly. So they almost think of it, I guess, like an actor going, I got nominated for Academy Award or whatever that equivalent is. Right. And then, like I said, and then the other side is it'll open doors. So if you want, I've had publishers reach out to me about publishing a book because of my TEDx talk. And so it'll open doors, getting interviews. I've had interviews with really big names. And when I go to do the interview, they're like, oh, I loved your TEDx talk. So that told me they saw the TEDx talk and they went out of their way to watch it. And this is somebody that, maybe takes you months to reach them just for an interview. So that would be my three kind of core reasons as to why I say you need to do a TEDx talk if it's within you to do a TEDx talk. Okay.
All right. How can you leverage speaking to grow a business, a brand, or vice versa? So just to give you an example, I'm an author.
Yes.
And how can I use speaking to help me build my brand as an author?
So there's many ways. So just inherently by speaking, if you're talking about your brand or associating your brand with your talks, automatically it's going to do the work for you. So it's going to start building your brand because you're out there speaking anyway. But what you can do, if you want to directly do it, you can actually, if you want to do this separate from speaking, so you could be speaking because clients are bringing you in, let's say, to speak on whatever it might be. Let's say bullying or abuse or something, or customer service, whatever that looks like. You can be doing those talks separate from this. But what I did early on is I was doing talks that I spoke on, like leadership and what have you. But then I also ran branded, we'll call them seminars or speakers boot camps. And it was sponsored by my newspaper that I had at the time. So it was an actual publication that I had, similar to Success Magazine. And it was what branded my talks. So I'd bring in these other speakers. I wasn't really the key speaker. I'd bring in other speakers. And it would be the Island Business News, which was the name of the publication, annual, let's say, speakers boot camp.
Okay.
So what happened was I would be there talking every time as the founder of Island Business News. And what happened is while you're marketing the event, while people are at the event, they're seeing the name over and over again. And so I tested it. So the first of the year when I started doing this, I asked, how many people in the room here have heard of Island Business News before today? And it was a brand new publication. And so in a room of, let's say, 100 people, I had like a scatter of hands, like 8 hands. And then at the end of the year, I said, how many people have heard of Island Business News? And I said, I added in before you heard about this event. So separate from this event, how many people have heard of Island Business News? And it was almost every hand in the room. So say like 90 versus 8. And so that was it. Within 1 year, what I was doing is I was running these public seminars, which was really cool is I was getting paid to run the event. People were buying tickets to the event. I had other speakers that were promoting the event. And at the very same time, it was building my brand.
Okay.
So what you can do is you can run public events that are tied to your brand. That's one thing. And then the second option is if you're doing talks, let's say around, let's say customer service, and let's say your brand is, I'm trying to think of an example, but let's say your brand is about a certain product, like let's say book. I'll use that. Let's use books since we're talking publishing.
Okay.
So it could be about a book and you could be a publisher. And so you're going in and let's say you've only published maybe 2 books and you're just starting for other authors. So you go in and do your talk on customer service. But what you do is you say, here's what we do at our publishing office to create customer experiences for our customers. So what you're doing then is they're hiring you to come in and talk about customer service, or maybe you're coming in for no fee, doesn't matter. But then you basically make sure your talk is around what you guys do as an organization. Just make sure it's not a sales pitch. But as long as you find a way to tie your message around the brand, that's the second way that you can grow your brand through talks. And your
Okay. Who inspires you in their speaking?
Am I speaking? You know what? So because I'm a big fan of TEDx talks, I would say every time I see a TEDx talk or TED talk where somebody brings a new idea to me that I never considered before, they inspire me. So it's kind of a moving, let's say, target. It's not always the same person. But I will say early on, Tony Robbins was the first speaker that I saw that I kind of went, wow, I'd like to do that. Whatever he's doing, I'd like to do that.
Okay.
And so I have to say he was the initial one, but now it's a moving target. It's different people at different times.
Okay. Now with the TEDx, you have to have an idea. You're presenting an idea. Am I correct? So how do you divide your time between delivering those ideas and creating those ideas?
So for me, I mean, so some people will only have one idea and they share that idea over and over again at, maybe 50 talks at 50 different events or 50 cities using 50 of the same talks every year. So there's speakers that for 20 years have been sharing the same talk. So for them, they don't have to divide it at all because they created the talk whenever they did originally, and all they do now is maybe at the most adjust it slightly. Then you have other speakers who customize it a bit more during every event. And so if you're that speaker, what I would say is what I typically do is I just sit down with this method that I use called the spider method, which is like a mind mapping thing. It helps you come up with ideas. And I can sit down with that mind mapping sheet and spend 15 minutes and basically come up with I can build a new talk around a talk ahead. So I'm basically adjusting it. I'm adding new stories in. I'm kind of doing it from scratch, but built around a talk I already had. I can probably do that in 15 minutes. If it's a brand new talk from scratch, it might take me an hour.
Okay.
But to answer your question, when I originally do that, I build the talk around stories that I know really well, something I witnessed or something I observed that I know will resonate with people. And I build the talk around that. And then it's a lot easier than if I'm just trying to come up with a talk that's built around facts and figures.
Gotcha.
So I might talk about a story about I was in California and I got bitten by a jellyfish and this was what happened. Well, if I know that story well enough, it's more a matter of me working that story into the talk. And then all of a sudden that story, I know it well enough that I don't have to then spend hours and hours and hours trying to remember the story because I know the story. So I would rather build it around stories, and that's how I create the talk. I build it around that, and once it's built, then every time I do it, it's just a matter of me, if I add something new in, it's just a matter of me learning something new and practicing that. But the other part of the talk, I've already probably delivered more than once, then I'm comfortable doing it. So I probably split it like less than 5% creation, and then the rest is delivering the talk regularly.
Okay. At what point do you come alive on this stage? Is it before you walk on the stage, or when you're on the stage, or 3 minutes after you start? When do you come alive during your talk?
Super great question. And I've never been asked the question ever before. So kudos for asking me a question I haven't been asked. So it's certainly not before I get on stage. A big myth that people have is you have to be born comfortable speaking. I won't bore everybody with the details, but I will tell you that I was that guy who did my first 3 or 4 talks, almost passed out, turned shades of color, covered in sweat, like terrified. First time I ever got on a stage was actually in stand-up comedy, and I had no experience, and I was tricked onto the stage, and I told the 2 jokes without the mic turned on, bombed horribly, covered in sweat. They got the mic turned on, I told the jokes again and bombed again. So that was my starting level. So I wasn't speaking at all in the beginning. So I still carry that nervousness with me. And so a lot of people have this myth that you have to be comfortable on stage to be up speaking. And for me and a lot of other speakers, that's not the case. So I don't come alive before I get on the stage because I'm already in my nerves and trying to, take the breaths and meditate and what have you. What I do that works really well for me, though, is before I go on stage, I visualize stuff that people have said about, like a person that said, I came to your talk, you mentioned this, and it transformed my life. So I try to put myself in that space of something somebody said that reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so that's more about getting myself into the moment of getting up on that stage finally. I would say it's a split between when I first start talking and maybe 4 or 5 or 3 minutes into the talk. So sometimes, depending on the event, I got that nervousness in me, so I have to take the breath. And so I'm not really fully in the moment yet. maybe in the first 10 seconds, but then by 3 or 4 minutes I am. So I would say I lean a little more towards, as I've started to talk, 3 or 4 minutes or more in. And then second, probably most times that I come alive is when I first start speaking, but it's more again often that I'm already into the talk. And then the least amount of time I come alive would be before I've gotten onto the stage.
Okay. All right. What do you want when you're doing your talks? What do you want the audience to say about you when it's all said and done? When you're finished with your speech, what do you want your audience to say?
I never thought of it like that before. And this, like they're saying it maybe to the person sitting next to them. I never thought about what he said before like that. And I also am so glad he told me how I can actually do something with that. So how I can actually, I never thought about customer service in that way before. And I'm so glad he shared with us how we can actually start applying that tomorrow.
Okay. All right. I'm going to close out with this question.
Okay.
What speakers that are listening, future speakers that are listening, you had to give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
This is a tough one, and I don't want to, I'm willing to share, I'm happy to share a second one to follow up on this because I know we talked about this before, or you could be okay with this one piece of advice. If you are, that's cool too. But I would say, and I said this at the beginning, make sure what you're speaking about is something that you're actually passionate about.
Okay.
So your heart has to be singing when you're talking about it for the audience to say, wow, I'm totally blown away. This person, they're so infectious because they have so much energy around this idea. Or, wow, you sold me because you're so excited about it yourself. That early talks I mentioned, one of the talks I said at the end, what did I talk about? Because people seem to be so happy about it. And they said, people were saying, I don't know, but you were so excited about it. You got me excited about it. And so what I'll say is if you're passionate enough about what you're talking about, people will forgive the stuff that they won't forgive if you're not passionate enough.
Gotcha. Okay, so share with the audience your website, how they can get in touch with you, your social media information. Share that with the audience, please.
Well, thank you so much. What I would say is if it speaks to them, we'll use that word, if it speaks to them, I mentioned a program. We have a speaking program to help people on the speaking side that are wanting to grow and learning to grow a speaking business. And then we have a TEDx program, which is a completely separate thing where we teach people how to secure and deliver their TEDx talk. So if somebody wants to learn more about that, where I would send them is thespeakingprogram.com. So it's an easy website, thespeakingprogram.com. If you go there and opt in, what happens is you get a free video training. I think it's an interview that I did with Tom Ziegler, the son of the famous Zig Ziglar. And then in about 2 weeks' time, depending when people are listening, but I know where we're live, it'll probably be in the near future, or now. So if you don't check it out now, within about a week and a half, we're going to be putting out free training. We do that every time. Before we launch the program. So even if you never jump into the program, you can still jump in and get the free training. So if you want to learn more about that, thespeakingprogram.com. If the other side of the fence, if they want to connect with me, if they want to follow me on social media, all those kind of things, I would send them to thatspeakerguy.com. So also an easy one, thatspeakerguy.com. If you go there, you can watch my TED Talks, TEDx Talks. You can read some of my articles for various different places like Forbes or whatever that I write for. So you can learn a lot of stuff on that site, but it also has various social media links for me. So you can look me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or whatever one you like. So that's where you'd find that, thatspeakerguy.com.
Okay, and I posted the link up so people can see it. Corey, thank you. A lot of times I bring on guests to share information with the audience and I learn things, but this was special to me because I am developing myself as a speaker. So a lot of great tips, a lot of useful information. I'm going to check out your site and check out some of your stuff. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Well, thank you so much. And I'll add in one other thing too, since we're going down that path right now. The free video training, jump on that for sure once it comes out. I always, the thing, we put in basically hours and hours into this training, and it's based on 16 years of me falling down trenches and manholes and trying to help you not fall down the same ones. So jump on that when it comes out. But the other thing too is we just released a new book called The Book of Public Speaking. You can probably tell I got this common theme, right? The speaking program, the book of the guy who wrote the book on it. But the point is that's on Amazon. We just missed the free timeline, so it was available for free for 5 days. But Amazon will only let you offer a Kindle book for 5 days for free. But here's the cool news: I want to still keep it as low as I can. So right now it's just 99 cents. If you go, if you go on somewhere else like .ca, like Canada, it might be $1 something. But basically, for somebody that is looking to grow their speaking business and get better, what have you, grab the book for 99 cents and go get our free training. And then if it speaks to you at some point, if you decide, hey, I want to jump into the program and have more guidance by this guy, that's awesome. But even if it doesn't, or even if it's not feasible at the time, you're still getting a book for less than $1 and free video training. And
once again, what's the name of the book?
Oh, sorry, it's called The Book of Public Speaking.
Of public speaking, okay.
I'll just post that up there. Yeah, if you go to Amazon.com or .ca or whatever for Australia, I think it's .aus. But if you go to those websites, just type in my name, and I think even if you get going close to right, but Corey Poirier, it'll be one of the first two that come up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I hope that you come back again in the future. When I'm a great speaker, we can share information.
Awesome. Well, you know what?
And compare notes.
Yeah, for sure. But you know what? I'm excited to watch your journey, and it'll be cool to see your talks. And you never know, you might already be crushing it and just not realize it. So.
Well, I'm working at it. Definitely. Thank you so much, Corey, and you have a blessed evening. Okay.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Guys, I hope that you really enjoyed that talk. Corey left us with some phenomenal information, and I was really glad to have him today. If there's anything, I'm asking now, if there's anything that you would like, any subject that you'd like to see in the future that I bring guests on, please drop me a line. My email is author Shannon Sproul, and Sproul is spelled S-P as in Paul, R-U-I-L-L @gmail.com. Author Shannon Sproul @gmail.com. As always, it's been a pleasure, and God bless and have a wonderful evening.